HP OMEN Max or Maximer. This is the brand new 2025 HP OMEN Max. It's a very powerful gaming laptop that is a little bit sleeker than most of the competition, despite the fact that this packs an RTX 5080. I've had this for a little over a week. I did not rush this review because I didn't want to. We're in a new generation here with all new NVIDIA type chips, all new Intel chips, and so these are interesting laptops that need a little bit of time. This one here is equipped with an Intel 275HX, very powerful CPU. It's also equipped with a RTX 5080, very powerful GPU. Different specifications you can get on it. This one here, I just went with 32 gigabytes of RAM, kind of keep the price down a little bit there. I've seen a lot of reviews on this, and most of them picked up the OLED screen. I intentionally got the IPS screen because I want to show you guys how amazing an IPS screen is. We are in the day of OLEDs. Everyone is OLED, everything is OLED, but I've been saying for a long time, yes, OLEDs are great, but there are a lot of drawbacks to OLEDs, and the OLED doesn't necessarily fit everybody's needs. And why might you consider that? Well, this laptop here is an extremely powerful gaming laptop, but it's a little bit more discreet than some of the other ones out there. It does have some RGB that you can turn off, turn on. I made purple. But other than that, it's not loaded full of RGB all over the place. It doesn't have a big Gundam vent on the back there. It's just a generally really sleek package. Like, you could be forgiven if you were confused and thought this laptop here was just some thicker chassis business laptop. This one here though definitely has a sleek look to it. Let's jump into the review here and I'll tell you what I think about this OMEN Max. Spoiler, it's really a good laptop, so I think you should watch this review. Alrighty, and here's the OMEN. Looking pretty sleek. I've always kind of liked the OMEN lineup, especially the premium OMENs. They're kind of stealthy. They don't necessarily scream gamer at all, which is always a nice thing. They're a little thicker than, a business laptop, obviously, and heavier, and, obviously there's some giveaways like the giant vents on them, but they definitely have a sleek look to them compared to a lot of gaming laptops. I would say they're probably amongst the most stealthy of true gaming laptops, if not the most stealthy. For a true gaming laptop, you can get like hybrid devices like the G14, G16 and that, but for a real pure gaming device, this is probably amongst the most stealthy you can get. Black, dark, it's not exactly black, it's like a super dark gunmetal, so you will get some fingerprints on it, but you can wipe it down. It's a premium material on the top, so that's nice, not cheap plastic. Bottom, again, fingerprints, you can get them, but you can give it a quick wipe down. That's looking pretty good, all structurally sound. Not exactly light, but again, it's a high performance gaming laptop. Just happens to be a little bit sleeker, so you don't want to scream that you're a gamer in every single place that you go. So, what do we got here? 2,702 grams. Again, not exactly light. You're approaching on 6 pounds, but there's a lot going on in here. DGPUs, cooling, and all that. So, if you're going for full carry, let's see here. You're probably looking at about 7.5 pounds or something. Yeah, something around there. 3,641 grams. Port selection on this laptop. Right side here, we have a 10 gigabit USB-A, love to see it. Good for dongles, good for enclosures. I do all my gaming externally, so that's good. Dual Thunderbolt 4 is fantastic. Obviously, you're going to be able to power off. I think it's that one for the power there, but you can also use dongles for external storage. Put games on it. You can use docks. This is enough power to obviously be a desktop replacement. You can get simple docks like that. That are Thunderbolt 4, allowing more displays than that. This is easily enough power to use it as an external. And then you do have ports on the back, which is fantastic. Power coming out of the back is lovely. It's lovely. And of course, Ethernet and HDMI coming out of the back are lovely, because these are the ones that are, these giant things coming out, and you don't want them to be anywhere else. You want them to be at the back. So you can tuck this here, get all your wires out the back of your thing and keep it nice and clean, especially if you're, a streamer or like, a clean setup, whatever. It's nice to have that crap out of the back. And then you do get another USB-A there. So looking pretty nice. Yeah, so there's a few changes this year, I guess kind of piggybacking off last year. We have the OMEN style, I call this like an OMEN keyboard now, where it has the ring around it for RGB. I've already been using this laptop for like a week or so. Actually, the fingerprints are not that bad. I didn't wipe it down before. I kind of do that on purpose. Black does bring fingerprints, obviously. Okay, so you can see that's just drying off now, and look at a lot cleaner now, obviously. We do have the OMEN style keyboard here, which is basically you have this ring around it where it's going to be RGB is going to shine through. We'll see when we get to the keyboard section. That's nice. You don't get a full distinction between the enter key area and then the numpad, but you do get a full numpad, which is nice. These laptops here, because they're fairly stealthy, I mean, they're going to be used for people who are gaming, obviously, but people who need high level on the go performance for other things as well. Number crunching, coding, you know, that kind of stuff. Like anything that potentially you might need to input a lot of numbers. So I can see why they would have a numpad here. Because yeah, it is a gaming laptop, but it also is so stealthy and relatively portable, I would say, for a gaming laptop, that it appeals towards other people as well. So that's nice. You don't get a gigantic, massive trackpad. It's just a reasonable size trackpad. Your choice. You do get, unfortunately, the Copilot button, but that'll vanish over time. A little bit of accents up there. Not a glossy screen. You can see that's nice. Right? This is not the OLED version anyways. I'm not the person you want to ask to say OLED is the king, because I think more and more people are going to start using OLEDs and see that they're great, but they're not for everybody. Now, specs on this specific unit, there's a little bit of customizability. This one has a 275HX processor. I've already tested it a little bit, and it's a very powerful processor. Obviously, not going to be a battery king, but 24 cores, no hyper-threading anymore from Intel, so you get 24 real cores. Memory, 32 gigabytes on this one, 5600 megatransfers per second. You can add more if you want. It has a nice SK Hynix NVMe. We'll see how fast that is, but it's good that they're including a high-end NVMe in there. SK Hynix is my brand of preference. Wi-Fi 7 BE200. It's on my other laptop as well, my little Ultrabook. Good Wi-Fi. That's irrelevant. And then we have our AI. Then we have our GPU. So this one here has a 5080. That's what I opted for. That was what was available. And I've already tested a 5080 from some other brands, so it's a nice little comparison for me. So very powerful specs. Very good. Software here, you do have a couple options. You do have HP Support Assist, which you're going to want to keep on. In here, you can get your warranty stuff. As you can see, this has a warranty for a year, obviously. You can do updates here. I've already done them, but there might be more. I mean, it's been a few days since I've been using this. But you can do things like BIOS updates in here, which, of course, you want to update the BIOS on your laptops. You can do things like hardware level updates. You always want to look into these things, but BIOS can increase performance, increase battery life, increase stability, security, all that kind of stuff. So we'll do that, and then we'll let it go. Of course, you do have your warranty access in there that can run in the background. In here, we do have our HP OMEN Gaming Hub. It has a front end for, like the, what do you call it? The Steam Deck kind of front end type thing in there, but that's fine. But you do come in here, and this is where you get access to your device. So you have system vitals telling you how much stuff you're using, whatever processes. You can kill processes from here directly, which is actually a really useful feature. A lot of other brands don't have that. So the fact that you can come in here and just kill off annoying processes. Advanced view. Yeah, tell you all what cores are doing. Performance control is obviously going to be an important area for a lot of people, because you can set on your performance for what you're doing. If you need, max performance, if you want to run a little bit quieter, a little bit noisier, you can come in here. Right, so now we're on performance mode. You have Unleashed, which just basically just lets it rip. Balanced mode brings down some watts on the CPU and GPU. On this system, it should still be very capable, even for things like gaming. Eco mode, is that for the battery? Is that what that is? Yeah, actually that's good. So we'll go like that. That's cool. Eco mode is going to really bring down the wattages to improve battery life and that. Performance will be a little bit noisier. Unleashed will be a little bit noisier. Balance mode, depending on the games you're playing, the tasks you're doing. A lot of the time I actually leave these laptops in balance mode, because if I'm playing, I don't know, let's just say, I don't know, Baldur's Gate or something like that. It's not exactly easy to run, but it's also not the hardest game to run. So you can get by with like a balance mode and just it runs a little quieter. But then if I'm playing some super demanding 2025 game, throw it up into performance mode, let it rip. You do have fans as well. Auto will basically go for what it wants. You can go max and just have it rip, let it go, that kind of stuff. That's thermals. Power in here. You can do a little bit of extra, smart performance, tweak this kind of stuff. Your pick. Allocating between the CPU and GPU, we'll just leave it. Actually, can I tweak it, or is it auto? I think that'll figure it on its own. Boom. But what this is going to do essentially is it's going to allow watts to go between the CPU and the GPU, depending on what you're doing. So you're playing Cyberpunk, which can be a little bit CPU heavy. It might give a little bit more back to the CPU. And then if you load up a very GPU heavy game, it'll, take some off of the CPU, put it back into the GPU. Very good. Battery drain, I guess. I mean, this is a massive power supply, 330 watts, but I guess theoretically you could allow it so that the power supply and the battery are both supplying power at the same time, which would slowly drain your battery, but it would give you potentially more performance. We'll just leave it as it is. Here's more stuff here. Whoa, there's a lot in here. Holy crap. I mean, these HX processors are very tunable. So you can come in here and you can do all kinds of tuning in here. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to leave everything stock. There are people who are going to be way better at this than me, so I'm not going to pretend to remotely be professional, but you can turn off these. You can like straight up just turn off efficiency cores, which would give you more potential performance in games. And if you're just going for like max battery, you're like, I'm on a plane, I need to use this all day. Turn off these are performance cores, but they call them active cores, I guess. Turn them off and basically get more performance, get more battery life, for example. You can tweak this kind of stuff in here. GPU, what can we do in here? We can actually just straight up overclock it. Straight up overclock that. Don't mess with the stuff if you're not comfortable. The performance stuff before that, I want to do that. The performance stuff before here, like these performance modes, are totally fine. You can rip through these all day. It's not going to cause any problems. This is very basic level. It's the advanced performance where you're doing like overclocking, underclocking kind of stuff, doing that kind of stuff. So let's open this bad boy up. That's the one thing I have not done yet because I wanted to capture it on film. Area back here. Yeah, just taking my time. The chassis is slightly different than my previous. I had an OMEN 16, but it was a couple generations old. It was a little bit different, but that's fine. I usually find it pretty easy. Yeah, very easy to get into. Now it's got a nice thick, holy smokes, that's a thick bottom. No wonder it's so heavy as a laptop here. Look at all this. There's all kinds of structure pads in here. That's a foamy type material, so this thing is not wobbling. In the hand, it feels really nice. I don't know what the heck these are. It says sus steel. It's not actually steel. It's suspect that it is steel. I don't know. Rectangular style speakers, they'll see how they sound. I actually haven't used this thing loud yet, so we'll see how that sounds. Now, in terms of upgradability, we have lots. We have DDR5 underneath here. If you can see that there, we have 1 stick and 2 sticks. It looks like they're running at 5600, 5600. We get a little bit of a shield there to prevent from contact because this is metal. That's good. So you get 2 upgradable memory slots here. So, if you buy this with 32, you're not screwed. You can upgrade down the road. We get dual NVMe 1 and 2. That's a weird one. It's actually like tucked under that heatsink. That's cool. So dual NVMe, dual SODIMM. I'm already happy at that point. We get some coordinates. GPU is apparently under there. CPU is apparently under there. Not going to take them off because this is a giant vapor chamber. Vapor chamber is going to be critical on a device like this because we have an extremely powerful desktop level CPU and an extremely powerful GPU in here. Very important. Giant, nice, thick fans on it, so the laptop is relatively thin for what it is. Despite that, they put the fan, as much fan as they could possibly get in there. It's a nice thick fan. And it does have this curved kind of blade there, so that's going to reduce air turbulence, therefore noise and whirring sounds. I don't know if it's going to increase performance. I don't think it actually does, but it does dramatically decrease the noise. So when you see this fan style here, you should be happy because it's going to make the laptop much less annoying. You still potentially could have volume, but it's not going to be an irritating volume. So what's going on here? Oh, just a little bit of sticky tape. So we have a thermal pad there. I'm going to check for dual-sided NVMe. Dual-sided NVMe check. Okay, so my critique of the inside here, I think there has to be something negative for the laptop, is going to be this here. This little heat shield on NVMe 1 is actually integrated into this thing, which is very strange. That's a very strange take. I'm not seeing any means of taking this off at all without taking off the actual cooling unit. Okay, that's a little tight there. Yeah, there's some chips under there. So not dual-sided NVMe, safe. You're going to be rocking a single-sided NVMe. Okay, so that's fine. So you're going to get access to, at least for now, 4 terabytes on this slot here. And then this one here, again, 4 terabytes. I can see right off the bat that there's chips under there. So this is also not going to be dual-sided safe. So single-sided for both. So for the time being with the SSDs we have right now, 4 and 4. So you're going to get up to 8 terabytes of storage for now until we get bigger ones. Okay, so let's get a laptop here. Got everything all updated. We have this keyboard here. It's not my favorite keyboard. I like, a little more key separation, but they do have at least the groove down in them. That would be the only probably physical thing that I find that I'm like, it's not my thing. I'm sure some people like it though. I've heard people say they really like it. Separation here is a little low for number crunching, but overall, I mean, you're going to be typing over here. Yes, the trackpad is slightly off-centered, but that's because it has a numpad. So that's over there. So if you don't like that, I mean, it is what it is. Let's give a quick typing test here, though. Yeah, so it's fine. It took me a minute there to get used to it, as I'm just not used to it. But once I got used to it, I don't think I had any typos. So that's good. Yeah, you're just going to have to get used to the fact that it has this kind of chasm in between rather than fully separated keys. Once you get used to that, you'll be fine. Because it is actually a nice keyboard. There's a decent amount of travel, right? Even for being a thin, relatively thin laptop, decent amount of travel, and it's nice and snappy. So that's good. And it may not come across as being thin, but it doesn't ever show up on camera. But it's not, it's not like a Ultrabook like an LG Grand, but it is relatively thin overall. This one here is the French whatever hybrid keyboard, which is not good for me overall, but it's easy. You just, when you enable like English in here, it just doesn't give you the weird French accents. That's fine. If you are not Canadian, you can get a non one. That's fine. And then of course you do have your RGB in here. Oh, that's cool. If you hit function, it actually lights up your function keys. Ah, cool. Because we have our little power one. That's like the power mode, and then some other stuff in here. Let's go like that there, okay. RGB activated. Oh, ocean. These are the 3 presets, what you saw when I went through, 1, 2, 3. And you can do custom. Color cycle, starlight, breathing, ghosting. What's ONX? What did that do? Oh, it makes an X whenever you type. That's cool. It makes an X out whenever you type. Isn't that just neat? Breathing is cool. And then you can pick the one you want. Red, OMEN. Light bar down here. Keyboard there. Sync, you can sync them. Very nice. Different options, static, speed that you want to do. So, you got all your little goodies in here. Very cool. Trackpad will come out here and then we'll get into the software in a sec. But the trackpad itself is fine. Not a glass trackpad and, it's not gigantic, which is good, actually, and to be honest. But it's nice and clicky. Did not go for the OLED on this because everyone's reviewed the OLED, and to be honest, the OLEDs are nice, but they're not the be all end all. I will take a nice IPS, Halo level IPS over an OLED any day. Why do you say that? Well, OLEDs do have absolute black, so you get more contrast ratio. That is undeniable. However, OLEDs have some issues with them. One, they're often glossy, not always, but they're often glossy. Some kind of update. Some kind of glossy OLEDs will cause reflections. You can see here there is 0 reflectivity on the screen. It is a beautiful thing for gaming and for professional use. Nothing is worse than sitting in a room and having the mirror of this light shining. Look at that. That's right on the screen. It's so anti-reflective. Yet, I'm very happy to see that despite the fact that it is an anti-reflective, you're going to be getting vibrant colors. OLEDs also have the issue of being susceptible to burn-in, which is an issue. Yes, it is an issue, potentially. If you're just gaming and that, you have, always changing stuff, not going to be as much of an issue. But if you're using this as a professional task, especially for years, you are risking burn-in, especially on persistent features like that. If you Excel spreadsheets up, that kind of stuff, you are risking burn-in. But that's not really the biggest issue for me. The biggest issue for me is it causes eye strain. If I use OLEDs for, gaming only, a couple hours here and there, watching movies, that they're unbeatable really, because they just look so nice for just content consumption, that kind of stuff, media in general. But if you start to use these things for hours a day, which I do, I use my laptop for hours and hours and hours a day. Anytime I get into an OLED screen, after a few hours, I start to get headaches, eye strain, eye fatigue. You get things like PWM flicker. It's just the way OLEDs are. So been saying this for years, and people were like, no way, man, OLEDs are everything. And now that every device has OLED options, more and more people are like, oh yeah, like maybe we were right. Maybe the OLEDs aren't for everybody. That being said, OLEDs are still fantastic, but I want you to be aware that there are advantages and disadvantages to both. IPS, the only disadvantage of an IPS, the only disadvantage of an IPS like this here is you don't get perfect blacks. So your contrast ratio is not going to be as good as an OLED. However, you can see here, beautiful screen, no reflections at all, like shockingly low reflections. They put a really good screen in this actually. And it also has, you can see, does not have absolute blacks. They're still good blacks. That's not what I see. I see about that there. They're still quite good blacks for an IPS screen. It's a good contrast ratio screen. They do a very good job. They're not cheaping out on this, but you're not going to get the same blacks as an OLED, like obviously, right? You come into a scene like this here, it is still very good blacks, right? You're going to notice it. If you put this beside, in a daylight bright situation like this, you can't tell that much. But if you go and all of a sudden you're in a dark room, you turn off every single light, and it's dark in your room, you'll start to be able to tell the difference between this and an OLED. So let's just come in here and look at this beautiful screen here. Yeah, it's relatively bright. Like, it's definitely not a dim screen by any means. Being 100% DCI-P3, you get really rich colors here where the greens look alive. These grasses on a lower screen are going to look dead. You don't have that issue here. They look beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful colors. So because it's a 100% DCI-P3 color space, the reds are going to be fantastic. The greens are going to be fantastic. Everything's going to look great. You don't have the disadvantages associated with an OLED, but of course you don't have the absolute blacks. You know, for me, I buy IPS screens. If they're high color space screens, I target IPS screens. I prefer them. 1600p, so good resolution for this screen size here. You wouldn't want any lower. 1080p would not look good on here. You could go more, but then you're really going to start to press the GPU. It's a 5080. It can handle 4K. We'll show that in this video, but 1600p is more ideal. Then you do have your two different options here: 60 hertz for maximum battery, 240 hertz for looking nice and snappy. You won't see it because YouTube records at, I record 60 and they publish at 60, but it's very noticeable. All right, we're going to do an audio test now. Watch your headphones. I don't expect it to get mega loud, but I expect it to be pretty good, especially for a gaming laptop. Gaming laptops are kind of all over the place. Okay, that's 50. And turn it up to full blast. Okay, we're going to do FX sound here because it actually was a little quiet. So we're going to go volume boost, and you can just pull these things up. Just make the laptop a little louder. So we're actually going to go, we'll just go volume boost, and we'll just pull all these up here a little bit. I'll just make it flat for now. I don't want to come in here and tweak. FX sound's just a free software. You can use it if you want. Thing here. It might be really loud now. We'll see. Yeah, it definitely added some volume. Yeah, so overall they're actually pretty good. There are better speakers out there. A lot of professional laptops, if you're getting into the creator style professional laptops, they can have, like quad speaker setup, 6 speaker setup, more volume, more bass. But for a gaming laptop, they're good. I don't think you're gonna have any complaints with them. They have enough low end bass to be satisfying, and they have no tinniness or emptiness or hollowness, rattle, anywhere from the low all up to the higher end. They're not going to beat out a 4 or 6 speaker setup, but they're fine. Especially for a gaming laptop, they're fine. If you're using this for watching shows and media consumption, you're gonna have no problems with it. They're definitely just good, I would say. Okay, so we're going to do some performance testing here, but before we get into the actual benchmark results, I just want to check the wattages and noise level because 275HX is a 275HX, but I need to know how the cooling does here. So we're going to start off in that performance mode. We're not going to go into the rage mode yet. We'll go through the different settings here, check what the wattages, the thermals, and specifically the noise here. Disable automatic fan cleaning? What the heck is that? Okay, there's the watts now. Now we're up to 141. Here, obviously, there's more noise. 52. There, it's kicking up now. 55, 56, getting a little noisier. It's doing a good job of maintaining those wattages. You can see there's I guess there's a little bit of throttling popping in and out. but the fans are going a lot and able to keep the noise down. And obviously the score is going to shoot up. We can rerun this when we get to the performance mode. That's good. So it's definitely loud on performance mode, but there's no whirring. Like there's no like a wee sound, which is good. So you can just basically let it go. It's not going to annoy you. It's moving a lot of freaking air. Wow. These fans are definitely powerful. Like that thing's moving air there. Wow, okay. I just want to come back into that performance mode again. Go like that. It did drop down a little bit here. Now we're at 128 instead of like 140 to 155. It's much quieter in performance mode. 54, 55. It's still fairly voluminous, but it's moving a lot of air and it's staying cool enough. People, in my last video, I did a Legion review. They're like, oh my God, 100 watts on a CPU. Yeah, it's a desktop CPU inside of a laptop, and it's supposed to do that. It's meant to. These CPUs will boost up as much as they can to maintain max performance under a fan profile, right? That's how they're tuned. It's not going to damage the CPU. That's what it's supposed to do, right? And then if you want it to be quieter, you throw in something like balance mode. Fans come down, wattages come down, clocks come down, right? It might still get a little warm because, you know, it's still going to do as much as it possibly can for the amount of fan we're allowing it, but it's much quieter now. Looking at some benchmarks here, so the Cinebench scores on that highest mode, 33,859. It's very good. Obviously, it's very powerful. You can tweak these. There's all kinds of tweaking you can do in that OMEN software, as you saw, and get more, but I run my stuff at stock, so that's good for a stock system. Of course, you can tweak and get more. I'm very well aware that you can do that, but for the testing purposes, that's a good baseline. Did a second run just to be sure. It actually went up slightly, but you know, we're getting around 34,000 just at stock. Very good. Then I dropped it down to the performance mode and no performance change. So depending on what type of thermals you want to have and what kind of noise you want to have, personally I would probably use performance mode. Then I went down to that more balanced mode and we did drop performance, but again we're still at 30,000 almost. So yeah, if you really don't need the noise, drop it down to balanced mode. You're still going to get desktop level performance. Then I dropped it all the way down to silent mode and it was so quiet, but we're still getting 20,000, which is very good. That's as good as some of the most powerful Ultrabook laptops that are on the market right now. So that is a very good score. Then battery, this is the one area where of course these laptops in general are not going to be great. High wattage GPU, even if it sleeps, we still have a high wattage CPU here. So I ran this at 60 hertz, but full brightness, we're burning around 24 watts or so, kind of just hanging out in Windows. So that'll be good for, it's probably about 3 hours on average for a laptop like this. You probably might get 4, depending on what you're doing. If you're just idling, maybe 4. Moving around Windows, probably 3, which I guess for the components is not terrible. If you then move into, you know, doing some YouTube, it didn't really change. It's basically the same. So we're just kind of looking at 24 watts or so. Wi-Fi is very fast. That's as fast as my Wi-Fi goes and has a nice strong signal here. Then that included NVMe. This is where things are really interested. I was a little annoyed at first that it was kind of difficult to get in there and take it out, but then I realized that it's a Gen 5 drive. And so it's very fast. So I don't think a lot of people are going to take that drive out since it is very, very quick. Most likely they're just going to add a second NVMe in that second slot there, you know, throw in a 4 terabyte or whatever for games and files and that. And of course you do have access to external storage as well, but you do get a very fast NVMe included with this drive. Okay, let's have a look at the camera here. Not the best lighting. It's actually pretty nice, yeah. I like to see a gaming laptop that has a camera that doesn't suck, especially when they're expensive gaming laptops. Especially with a device like this that isn't just for, you know, only gaming. Yes, OMEN is their gaming brand, but I think a lot of people would buy the OMEN as gaming or someone who needs a lot of power on the go and potentially could be professional and might need the webcam for a setting. Or you are a gamer and you use it for streaming. You know, this is actually pretty nice. You could toss this in the top corner of your stream up there. Honestly, you probably wouldn't need more of the mic. Might not be good. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's a good it's a good webcam here. I'm pretty happy with this overall. Okay, we'll do some game testing now. I'm going to do the external display just to show off how nice this non-OLED screen is. If I can get it to match up, there we go. Booster is enhancing your Cyberpunk 27. How did it know? Okay, so we're just in performance mode, not rage mode or whatever. Okay, whatever. We'll do, this is ray tracing, ultra. We do have DLSS on transformer model, just quality, just the lightest amount. If you've watched my reviews or I think it was Digital Foundry, and I think Gamers Nexus did one, maybe someone else. Transformer model DLSS looks incredible, sometimes better than native. And performance on this mode here looks better than quality on the previous. So yeah, you're going to get an easy 60 here. GPU is pulling 165 watts, which is a lot. Let's come in here and just show you guys how noisy this is. It's pretty quiet. Despite the very powerful internals, the laptop is able to keep itself quite cool to the touch on the outside, thanks to those very powerful fans. So you can see where the hands are there, you're only at 30 degrees or so. On the back, you're not gonna put your hands there, but even so, it's only 40 degrees along the back there. That's very good. Along the sides, any area your hands are gonna be, it's nice and cool considering we're on full gaming here. And then on the bottom where your thighs are gonna be potentially, you're looking at 25 to 30 degrees or so. In the center, a little bit more heat, obviously, so don't put your leg on the center. It's not gonna burn you, but it's definitely a little warmer there. So this thing's moving a ton of air. The laptop seems to be noisier when the CPU is getting slammed because it's a desktop CPU, I suppose. But when it's more GPU bound, it's not that noisy. It might get a little noisier as time goes, but not too bad. So yeah, you're going to get, around 55 or so. But what I would recommend doing is coming in here and throwing on a little bit more. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Come in here and go like that, balanced. Ray tracing ultra. It actually didn't make a huge difference. This is an extremely hard to run area, by the way. You can see how hard the CPU is getting hit. 51. All right, we're really slamming the system here. Over here, still now we're easily over 60, well above 60. It's just that area there is super hard to run. It's fine, very good. Let's come in here. We can try frame gen after, but we're not gonna do that yet. We'll do performance. Yes, you can do performance with DLSS transformer, and it will look fine. I still suspect we're gonna have a bit of some slamming here, just based on raw. No, so there you go. So performance to get you with ray tracing ultra. Again, this is heavy for a laptop on 1600p, and now we're doing pretty well. No frame gen. It's pretty quiet actually, which is interesting. Okay, so in this very difficult area of the game, this is why I'm starting with Cyberpunk, because it's CPU and GPU heavy, both a lot. I'm gonna have a follow-up video, probably several, at least 2, on this laptop doing different game testing. So I'm not going to do a ton here. What I'm going to do is Cyberpunk, which is a CPU / GPU heavy game, and then I'll do a just more pure GPU heavy game. See the difference there. So that's looking pretty good. Let's just go down. Some people aren't really into ray tracing, they don't care. So let's just go normal ultra. We'll go back to DLSS. We can turn this probably way down now. So we'll just go quality. So just quality scaling now on normal ultra if you don't need ray tracing. And now the frames are way up. Again, no frame gen, which we can do after. But you're going to get really good performance here. And this screen looks really nice in this game. The blacks are actually really good for an IPS. And the colors are incredibly vibrant, which is nice in Cyberpunk, obviously. 0 reflections. Can you see me? Can you see me? No, you can't. There are advantages to having non-glossy OLED screens on a laptop. You go with an IPS, very, very high color space, high quality IPS. I take it any day. I'm sorry, I will. Over an OLED. Yes, I like dark blacks, but I prefer rich colors on a non-glossy screen and not getting eye strain and this and that. So I'll take the non-OLED. That's just me. Everybody's different. I'm not going to discredit the OLED, but I'll take this screen any day over the OLED one. Yeah, looks nice. Okay, let's come in here and we can we'll try frame gen in a sec. But the next thing I want to do is come in and let's crank this way up. So we're going to go all the way up to ray tracing overdrive now. Transformer model. Let's come in here, turn that back up because we're going to need it. We can try frame gen in a second. Path tracing is on. Path tracing in photo mode. No. Okay. So now we're in like heavy duty mode. And even with path tracing, we do have a ton of scaling, but even with path tracing, we're still getting good frames here. Little below 60 here. Once we throw on frame gen, it should be fine. Okay, well, now we're back with frame gen, and the performance is skyrocketed. Obviously, it's 4 times frame gen. So we'll come in here and we will see what we were at. We were at ray tracing overdrive, just double checking. Scaling, we can probably turn it down, but we'll go balance this time. See what we get there. Again, path tracing and that. So just balance scaling, we turned it down here. We do have 4 times frame gen, and now, you know, our frames are way, way, way up. And it doesn't feel laggy, not in this game. There's some areas in the game where you get like little pieces of paper flying around with 4 times frame gen. You might get a little bit of ghosting, like trailers, but otherwise it's fine. And with frame gen, you need to have a good base performance. You want to have a good base before you turn it on. So, you know, the fact that we were at, what was it, 50 or something, or 45 or whatever, before we turned on frame gen, meaning once we turn it on, it feels fine. If we were at 20 and then we turned on frame gen, it would feel weird and kind of laggy and smeary. And we're not getting that here. Look at that performance. We can turn down scaling even more. You might as well leave it on, honestly, because again, it kind of looks better than native in this game. Like that there. Right? You're not going to get the best lows. That's what frame gen does, but your average is going to be really high, so it's quite good. Yeah, I don't know. We can, I guess if you really want, you can go and just put it down to non-frame gen, non-ray tracing. Just go down to ultra. So now we're on ultra. Let's just put on quality with frame gen, see what we get here. Give it a sec to do the frame. There we go. 247 FPS. So, I mean, yeah. Incredibly good performance. Now, I do want to quickly check one thing. So, we're going to be at 250 there, 256 or so. 164. And let's come in here now. We'll come in here now. I want to go to Unleashed. I don't know if it's going to make any difference. Maybe, actually. It's louder. Maybe because the CPU's getting cooled better? I don't know. Look at the temperature on that GPU. What the hell? 47? So cold. The CPU is hot, but the GPU is super cool. Wow, that's crazy. I guess this game's pretty CPU heavy, but I don't know. Let's go back into like that max ray tracing again. We'll put on balanced again there. In this rage mode, it's much louder in this anger mode here. Yeah, I mean, it's running really well. I guess if you need it, like, you know, you really need that performance, you have some game cranked up, sure, you can throw it on there. For me, honestly, the noise profile is so much quieter on this here. And the sacrifice, give it a sec for the frame gen to kick in. The sacrifice in frames, I don't know if there is even any. I don't think so. It's so much quieter. Maybe a little bit in the lows. Okay, so now we are in Cyberpunk at 4K. Let's check our settings here. Yes, the 5080 mobile will be 4K capable. It's not as powerful as a 4K, not as powerful as a 4080 desktop, but it's still very powerful. So that's Ultra right now. We do have DLSS on, I don't know, scope balanced, I guess. With frame gen, just see what it is. We can turn it off in a sec, just because we're already in frame gen. Yeah, so wow, okay. It seems really high. I guess it was like 240 before, so yeah, I guess that makes sense. So 4K, ultra, balance scaling, but with that really high 4 times frame gen. And I mean, yeah, you're going to get really high frames here. 175. And I mean, you can use more scaling on 4K and get away with it, so. Honestly, that's really good. I guess the other thing is, I mean, we're taking a little bit of pressure off the CPU. You can see it's down to only 33%. Before it was at like 50. So, you know, the GPU is doing all the heavy lifting here. Okay, well, I mean, we can try like some ray tracing stuff while we're here. Let's go, yeah, let's go ray tracing ultra, like that, transformer model. We'll just turn this up to balanced with frame gen, of course. Yeah, so you can do it 4K. It's still 120, so I mean, the base frame rate's a little low, I'd say, so you might get a little bit of weirdness. But now, if you see any tearing, that's irrelevant. This is not a G-Sync enabled screen. Okay, so now we're at 4K Ultra Balanced DLSS with no frame gen, and again, we're not going to have problems here. Once you start throwing on like path tracing and all this kind of stuff at 4K, yeah, it's going to be a little rough, but No problems here. And again, you can use more scaling at 4K. Honestly, performance scaling at 4K is going to be nothing. Even before we had transformer model, it was fine. Now with transformer model, it'll be fine. We're at an easy above 60 here. Great lows. Let's try DLSS on performance. So DLSS on performance on silent mode. DLSS on performance on silent mode on ultra. A little bit harder to run than FSR, transformer model. It's just a little bit more overhead. So you can, use the old school if you wanted. Or you can turn it up by one, ultra performance. FSR is a little easier to run. DLSS, original neural net is easier to run, but then transformer model is harder to run. But look at that, ultra performance. We are at 4K, so there's a lot of pixel data to work with here. So ultra performance, and you can see there's no flickering anywhere. It's looking nice and static. Even up here on other things that I've tested, you get flickering on older FSR on a lower resolution. We're not seeing any of that in here. So you can easily throw it on ultra performance and game on balance mode. On ultra. This is not medium. And this is an extremely hard area of the game to run. So far the hardest that I just started the expansion, but this is so far the hardest that I've seen. Yeah, really good here. So, yep, so you can get away with it. FSR or DLSS neural net, you get a little bit more frames, but it doesn't look as good, so you can't use as much. With transformer model, I would use it because you can just put on more of it. Like ultra performance here, this looks fantastic at a 4K screen here. So there you go. Very nice. So yeah, we're going to have more game tests. I'm going to do all kinds of game testing. Just come back for those videos, but that's enough for this video. Just really to show how performant this thing is. Okay, let's talk about it. What do I think about it? It's fantastic. It's a fantastic laptop. Yes, it's very expensive. All of these 5000 series NVIDIA laptops are really expensive. It's just, they just came out. We have brand new Intel chips. We have brand new Blackwell NVIDIA GPUs. I mean, HP has to pay a lot of money for both of those, to Intel and to NVIDIA. So then, and then they have to build a really premium chassis around it, and they got to make some money on top of that. Otherwise, they would go bankrupt. So it's an expensive laptop. That's fine because it's a very nice laptop. Let's talk about the negatives here. The fans can be a little noisy on it. That's kind of to be expected because, yes, it's an extremely powerful laptop and it is relatively thin. So far, I haven't tested a ton of different laptops in the new gaming 2025 lineups, but this one is one of the thinner ones for sure. A little bit thinner, despite the fact that it packs a full freaking 275HX and a full 5080 in there, full wattage 5080 in there. 165 watts is not out of the realm of this. So in performance mode, it can get a little noisy, but it's thin. You also have access to balance mode, which is very quiet. So that's the only negative I would say, honestly, is just it's a little pricey right now. It'll come down, but it's a little pricey right now, as everything is. And then, of course, you do have a little bit more fan noise, a little bit more noise than a significantly thicker chassis laptop. Despite that, it does keep it cool. The CPU can get hot. It is a desktop CPU inside of a laptop. Can get warm, but it does get hot. But it performs. It's not like I've had people in my other reviews for other laptops be like, oh my God, it's hitting 100 degrees. That's fine. That's fine. As long as it's not brutally throttling down, right? That's okay. This laptop here has a really nice vapor chamber. Yes, it can get warm, but it's able to get that performance. So it is actually cooling it despite that. So that's good. And the GPU runs super cool. Awesome. Very, very good. Other things, like I said before, very thin, very premium looking. It's stealthy. This is the type of thing you could take to like business meetings and that, into professional scenarios where you don't want to have like a big, gaudy gaming laptop. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but maybe you don't want to have like an eye-catcher laptop. You want something sleek and discreet. This is the one. Very sleek, very discreet. Extremely premium build to it, lots of metal on it, feels nice. What are the things here? We got a pretty nice keyboard here. It's a little weird to get used to, but once you do, it's fantastic, nice and snappy. Lots of customizable RGB. You can keep it relatively sleek, like the purple that I got there. Trackpad is fine, nothing special, but fine. Then let's talk about the other aspects of it. Of course, the internals on this laptop are really good. RAM, upgradable, fantastic. Dual NVMe, fantastic. The NVMe that comes with it is super quick, honestly, so that's great. Lots of cooling in there and a reasonably good battery, and the fans move tons of air, tons and tons of air, so that's good. Speakers on it are decent. They're nothing crazy, but it's kind of like gaming laptop realm. I mean, there's a few brands that have like really good speakers on gaming laptops, but then they're also really expensive and there's other areas that they might lack. This one here has a couple speakers in it and they sound just fine. Screen is fantastic. I haven't tested the OLED, but I've watched reviews on the OLED, and from what I see, it's good. This here is an IPS screen, which is my preferential screen. It doesn't have 100% crisp blacks because it's an IPS screen, but it has very good blacks for an IPS screen. So that's fantastic. So that's going to be the negative of it. But then the other advantage of it is it's relatively bright. It's IPS screens can get brighter, and it's going to have no reflections at all. Like, look at that. That's a freaking light right there, right on the camera, and you can barely see that, right? This is the type of laptop that you're going to take into a professional setting, or you're like me, you just don't like super reflective screens because they cause eye strain, and you're not going to get all that glare in there. Other advantages as well, you just don't get the eye strain that you get from an OLED in general. So this, you're going to be using this all the time, staring at the screen all the time. You're not going to get that eye strain. Fantastic. And reflections can also cause eye strain. So you have less eye strain from reflections, less eye strain from being an OLED. You also don't have reflections in general. It could mess up with your viewing angles in that too. So very, very good to use in a bright environment. This IPS screen is killer. So if you're going to be using this only for gaming and especially in like darker environments, yeah, I would say, the OLED's probably going to be a good pick. It's going to be really, really nice. You do pay a premium, but it's not staggering. It's just a couple $100 or whatever. If you're going to be using this on the go, bright environments, professional settings, honestly, give the IPS a go. So that's the HP OMEN Max. It's really nice, actually, really, really nice. I reviewed the last year's OMEN, and it was also fantastic. They balance being sleek, being not too large, being a little bit stealthy, but still offering the performance that you might want on a laptop like this. So if you're looking for something that gives you that massive gaming performance, crazy, crazy, crazy good gaming performance, but is honestly pretty sleek and a sleeper build there, check out the HP OMEN Max. It's actually really, really nice. Happy to see what else is coming along down the pipeline, but this one here is definitely a winner from HP.